Good morning.
Good morning.
It is necessary for us to undergo many hardships to enter the kingdom of God. Right there from our first reading this morning from the Acts of the Apostles. That's the line we were hoping for as we got out of bed this morning to come here to celebrate Mass. I am going to have to undergo hardships if I am going to enter the kingdom of God. Not so comforting this Sunday morning. But if we read through the Acts of the Apostles, if we read through it continuously, we would notice that today there is a shift in the narrative. There is a shift from focusing on St. Peter to the works of St. Paul. We also notice a shift in the theme of the book of the Acts of the Apostles. We focus now on suffering for the kingdom of God. The word suffering or hardship is actually the Greek word thalipsis, which is often translated tribulation, trial. It's a reference to the hardship preceding the final judgment in the Gospels that Jesus speaks of and John in the book of Revelation. And it's not accidental that that word hardship or tribulation shows up here in the Acts of the Apostles. In the verses immediately preceding the reading that we have today, Acts 14, chapter 14, verses 19 to 20, St. Paul is stoned to death by a group of Jews who had been incited by others. Yet Paul more or less miraculously rises from the dead. He's stoned to death, really, right there in front of everyone, in front of the public, as he's taken out of the city. He's left for dead, and yet he rises, and he returns to the city, and he begins to preach. And as St. Paul was preaching this message of tribulation, he was just coming back from walking out from being stoned to death. He was visibly cut. He was bruised in a most awful way. He was standing there mangled, bloody, bandaged, probably ribs and other bones broken in front of his believers. And his words left them with an understanding of the infinite power of God. St. Paul knew what tribulation was, and he shows that strong continuity with the preaching of Jesus. And through his preaching, we know that the kingdom of God grew among the Gentiles, and so it is today. Preaching continues in our midst. Conversions continue in our midst. Tribulation also continues in our midst. We think back to the Easter Vigil. Today we were called in the opening prayer to pray for those who had undergone and received the sacrament of baptism. I know there are many of you who are here with us this morning, and we celebrate the fact that the Lord has called you here. Think of all the baptisms that night. Think of all the first communions we've celebrated this year, confirmations celebrated. Look at all the baptisms that we're celebrating regularly in the church. The church is growing. Check our call log to the hospital, to the funeral homes, and for funerals here in our midst. Preaching, conversion, and tribulation are all surrounding us even today. If you've not seen the movie yet, I'm probably going to ruin it for you today, but that's all right. All right? I'm going to tell you about it. I just watched it this past Friday. The movie Father Stu. Who's seen Father Stu? Anybody out there? All right, there's a few of you out there who have seen Father Stu. If you haven't, too bad, you're going to get the story today. All right, so just pay attention. It's a great movie. I had no idea how strong this movie would even impact my own life. After I read it, after I watched it on Friday, I had to go on Friday evening and search and find out more about his life because it's pretty amazing. If you've never seen the movie, get out there and watch it at some point in time. I really suggest it. If you can get through all the 4-letter words in the movie, you will be able to truly enjoy it because it's based on a true story, and the story just draws you in. And so I think that I can talk about it without ruining anybody's day. So Stuart Long was someone who understood the true meaning of tribulation. He understood the meaning of hardship that was to be undergone to enter the kingdom of God. He struggled for a long time. He was always searching for the meaning of his life, from being a football player and a wrestler in high school to a local championship Golden Glove boxer. He eventually made his way to Hollywood with some small screen commercials and some small film roles, but he never made it big. And then after meeting the girl of his dreams and living through a near fatal motorcycle accident, he found the Lord. He initially found the Lord so he could get closer to the girl that he was trying to date. But he also had an encounter with God that changed his life forever. He went through RCIA. He was baptized, received his first Holy Communion. He was confirmed. He became Catholic. And Stu was all about doing everything to its fullest potential. And so when he became Catholic, it hit him that the only way for him to truly serve God was to become a priest. And that was tribulation for him, because he met the girl of his dreams. But he knew that this is what God wanted for him. He eventually was allowed to enter seminary, which was a tribulation for him to be able to enter into seminary at Mount Angel in Oregon. It took a lot to be able to get him into seminary. And when he was entered seminary, his body began to give out. He was diagnosed with inclusion body myositis, and his body began to fail. His muscles began to fail. It's a disease like ALS and Lou Gehrig's. He was told by the seminary that because of his failing body, he would never get ordained. Tribulation with a capital T in his life. And yet, through prayer and intercession, the Archbishop of his own diocese in Helena, Montana, ordained him anyway, gave him the opportunity to live out his desire to be a priest. He became a great confessor, a spiritual confidant for many near and far. He was praised for his ability to fight no matter what tribulation was thrown his way. He wasn't giving up because, in his own words, somebody had to fight for God. Father Stu was someone also, as pointed out in the first reading, as one who was appointed an elder in whom they put their faith. The Archbishop of Helena, Montana, had faith that Stu would be able to live a faithful and faith-filled life as a priest. He was one in whom others put their trust to be able to know God. That Greek word, presbyteroi, means priests. And so the elders, the apostles, were conscious that they needed to appoint leaders to continue their ministry and exercise their authority in their absence. And so it was also for Father Stu and all of us who have been appointed as deacons and priests and bishops. Now, I'm sure that all of us sitting here at some point or another have experienced some kind of tribulation. And as Father Stu will tell you, if you haven't, you will. And now I'm going to say something that often gets us angry with God and angry with the church. If we have tribulation, we're called to do what? We're called to offer it up. And that gets a lot of people angry when you say that. Just to offer it up. Well, what do you mean? What does that really mean? It means that we're called to unite our tribulation to Jesus on the cross that will get us through. And it takes an intentional act of the will. And guess what? It's not going to be easy because it's a tribulation and it's a hardship and it's messy. All you have to do is read or watch Father Stu's life. It took courage for him and strength to be able to allow others to help him so that he could find peace with his disease and peace with God. And guess what? At the end of the story, he still dies. Sorry, I ruined it. But he still dies. But he came to a knowledge of the peace of God in his life. And it was something that didn't happen overnight. It wasn't just zapped. We're not just zapped. If we were all just zapped by God, I'd be out of a job, right? It takes time. It takes patience. It takes courage. And today we're reminded that we're still living in the age of the Acts of the Apostles. The church is growing, especially here in Grove City. We're still experiencing tribulation. The church of God is still asking us for prayer and fasting, and the church is still appointing the priests that are necessary for us to be able to find peace and strength and courage to be able to do what is necessary to endure our tribulations. Yesterday, the Church of the Diocese of Columbus celebrated the ordination of 3 young men to the priesthood, a beautiful day for us. The church that we see in the book of the Acts of the Apostles is the one that we are still inhabiting, and because of it, the Son of Man is glorified. And so today, may God be glorified by your lives as we undergo hardship, as we undergo trials, and may we not be afraid to recognize our own weakness and ask for help. Because as Father Stu showed us, help has been given. All you have to do is look up.